It's a good evening. My name is Nominating Ahimbisibwe, and I'm sitting in to bring to you Face of the Nation show every Friday at 5 p.m. where we bring to you different people to share some opinions on governance, human rights, to mention but a few related issues. We stream live on our social media handles. That's on Facebook, it's The Alternative Uganda Facebook page, Digital TV also on Facebook, and on YouTube, The Alternative Uganda. You can subscribe and follow all that we do. It's a Friday. We are with Miss Charity Ahimbisibwe. She's the ED of Electoral Laws and Governance Institute. She's known too much when it comes to electoral democracy. She's very loud. Perhaps she would share with us how has her voice been heard, or she has been silenced, or so. But anyway, let's hear from her to say hello to our viewers, and then we shall proceed. Say hello to our viewers, Ms. Charity.
So it's a good evening to all our viewers, and good evening to you, Norman. Thank you for hosting me. Happy to be here and to speak
for
to
the
you.
first time
Yes,
in the studios, but the
it's
other times you were in our van.
I was in the van.
So we have a permanent home as well. Thank you once again. Now,
Yes.
to begin with, how prepared is your organization in the first place, before we even tackle the rest of the civil society organizations, in regards to the electoral season now?
So, Norman, one of the key issues that have happened is that funding has been a big issue. What I have are overhead costs for my organization. And to carry out election observation, you need proper funding. Why? Because there are 42,000 polling stations across Uganda. Even if you decided to do only half of those polling stations, you need people who you'll put at those polling stations to collect data for you. And each of these people should have a phone. Each of them should have airtime and data to send you that information into
smartphone.
Yes, a smartphone. To send you that data into a centralized system, which is usually a place where you put about 3 or 4 computers, get people who you also make to sit behind those computers, receive the data, and you analyze the data. Then put out real-time information and analysis on the different aspects of the election. For example, right now we have over 210 people who picked nomination forms for presidency. But how many were women, if I asked you that question? How many of the 203 were women? What were their ages of the ones that picked? Because this would be the data.
Why would that in the process?
So you see, when you analyze the trends of an election, if you analyzed how many people picked nomination forms, and you're able to tell us that maybe they are between 25 years and 34 years, it means that a young population has become interested in the presidency. And maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, these young people will be the people that will be in governance. So it helps you to project on the governance issues in your countries. You cannot speak definitely without data.
You mentioned some of the people that picked nomination forms.
Yes.
And not with any bias.
Yes.
But we have had some bit of the corridors speak, and people wonder whether some of them are even serious, or rather people are taking presidency for anyways. Let me even just go there and make some news. What do you make of that?
Yes. Now, the only good thing I know is that the law was changed not to allow them to access money. Because previously, what would happen is once you can collect the signatures from half the country and you return them, the Electoral Commission would give you 20 million Uganda shillings for campaigns. Yeah. They would also give you a van and soldiers. So this is what would happen. I would go and borrow the money, and then I would borrow like about 5 million to go collecting around signatures and everything. Then I would come to Electoral Commission, they give me my 20 million, I pay the person from whom I borrowed the 5 million, the 15 I put in my pocket, and I'm happy. So that would make profit for you. You'd be a business person.
There is no monetary exchange between EC and the presidential candidates.
It's they took away the money. It's now okay. The 20 million is a requirement for you now to pay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
to
for
pay
you,
you the candidate. but you will not receive any money from the Electoral Commission for you to carry out any campaign as a presidential candidate. Before now, Electoral Commission used to give money. And
I remember. Maybe let's, if we could highlight that 20 million back in the day. I think they used to give them 15 or 20 million.
20.
20. What did you ever make, okay, in quotes, we call it necessary noise, in quotes, any noise in regards to, first of all, some people back in the day would consider that money as not being enough to facilitate someone's presidential campaigns.
Bid.
But also to add that it was kind of an antidote to monetization of politics.
Yes.
That, okay, EC is giving you this much to traverse the country.
Yes.
Use within that mean.
Yes.
Did you find it justifiable? First of all, was the money enough? And also now removing it. So these are two questions in one.
So you see, was the money enough? Was 20 million enough to move around the country as a presidential candidate? It wasn't enough if you look at it. But if you look at it from a business sense, which I have just told you, like Katumba Oye, he benefited in 2021. And that's why his life changed for good. Katumba was able to make a difference from the money. He was new from school. He knew he was not going to become president, but he just wanted to have the money. He got the money. He used it. And he's a different boy altogether.
And judging a book by its cover.
No, he himself said the opportunities that came with him standing for president were very many. Number one, nobody knew a young boy would want to be a president, and he stayed on the trail until the end.
But you think the same money that you accuse him for having spent rather was spent through his movements and
on the trail? Oh, well, he didn't give us accountability. You see, at
what
the end of
the
law requires that they give accountability for this money. You see, all the money that is given by Electoral Commission is the taxpayers' money.
Who do we fault for not?
The Electoral Commission.
For not having him on
the Electoral Commission. Because the Electoral Commission is the one that is supposed to collect the
accountabilities
the books of audit. You will also notice that for the money that they pay them for iPod or the National Consultative Forum, they give political parties money. Every political party that is represented in the House is paid. Is paid. NUP, I think, got like 1.4 billion. Even NRM got 2-point-something billion. All that money was not accounted for up to now. Electoral Commission should have demanded for that accountability before they release more money. But they are releasing a new set of money to political parties. They'll be giving ant money. They will be giving...
Would you now say that EC is sleeping on the job?
Yes, I would say that. I would say that some of the duties that EC has to carry out, they have not done them. And every time the electoral body fails on its duty, then it spoils the democratic process, and it also compromises the participants.
In line with your organization's objectives, for instance, and or assignments, for lack of another word, have you reached out or written to EC highlighting that, look, this is our money as taxpayers, why haven't you held all the political parties, as you mentioned them, accountable?
No, I have not written to the EC, but I have had conversations with members of the Electoral Commission about the same. Maybe I should put it in writing because that helps legally. Legally, it helps when
what was their response?
When we had the conversation, they said, no, we have asked them to provide the accountability, but they haven't brought it. But of course, the law gives Electoral Commission the power, the mandate to bring them to book.
And I think this would be the right time to have
even
it as
even before now, it would have been a good time for them to have accounted.
Okay, I want to take you back to the 20 million. Now that money isn't there, that move, is it pro or against electoral democracy? Now
that money is not there, what it means is that these presidential candidates will have to find their own money to carry out the campaigns. It disadvantages young people who want to participate in the process. Remember, in the first place, when they removed age limit, no man. That is why we have all these people.
Yeah, from 18 up to, even if it's 200 years, you can contest.
Exactly.
Was it a good law in your view?
No, it wasn't a good law. We had safety nets. The two safety nets were age limit and term limit. Now, the two safety nets were taken away. Now, because of that removal of age limit, you've seen what has happened to the presidency. A man comes up and tells you, for me, God has told me to marry from the 4 regions of Uganda, and then I become the president of Uganda, because each woman will help me to jail with each of the regions of Uganda. Very trivial matters is what they were raising. You see, ideally, when you choose to be a presidential candidate, you should come when you already have a manifesto of sorts. You have a roadmap, you have a manifesto, you have something that you're going to tell the citizens of the country that you're going to do for them. So if you looked at Bwanika when he stood to be president of Uganda.
26, I think, yeah, Abed
Bwanika. Yeah. Look
he
at...
had, honestly speaking, it's been on record. Perhaps it could be the same opinion that we share. He had one of the best manifestos.
Yes.
It's known.
Yes.
Save for his other faults.
Yes.
In case they are. But
yes.
he had the best manifesto.
Yes. So he had a very good manifesto. And I don't know why the NRM did not pick some of those ideals which were in that manifesto and utilize them in the term that they took. Because some of them were promoting the economic basis of an ordinary Ugandan. So today maybe would have had economic boom, more businesses, you know. So these candidates who have come, they should have come with such an agenda. Each of them came, now I'm also standing, now I'm also standing. Now nobody had an agenda, nobody had a manifesto, nobody said, okay, I have been thinking about it for a period of time. Here now it is that I have my manifesto, and this is how I'm going to run. Had they done that, it was going to be a totally different ballgame. Of course, the National Unity Platform later in 2021 also came, and they had a manifesto that was fair, but had been influenced by the team of people who were voting for it. So Norman, you asked me a good question at the beginning where you said, what is the organization doing ahead of the election, and has it curtailed you a bit? And I want to say that, you know, from a very data-centered spot, it has curtailed the work that I do if we don't have funding. Voter education, which is a requirement which the judges spoke about from 2001. The court ruling of 2001 talks about voter education. The court ruling of 2006 talks about it. The court ruling of 2016, of course, you know, 2011, we had walk to work. Then now, 2021, the botched court process. So, but the rulings that are there that exist... Are
those recommendations by the Supreme Court?
The recommendation number 1 is improvement in voter and civic education, which has been ignored.
But you have done, back in the day when you were in another organization that did the same work.
Yes.
You did lots of voter education. But the electorate, sadly, doesn't seem to change. Is it their problem or it's your problem? You, in general, as CSOs, is it the vote? Are you teaching dull students or you are the dull teachers?
But I also want to think, you know, you asked me that question and I had to first stop, Norman. Why? Because
in a second,
we have to think about the environment. But it's okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have been in this work for great years.
Yes, it's 8 years now.
To date, still people vote rice.
Yes.
They vote a chunk,
yes.
If you know Uganda,
yes.
They still vote omudigido. You know, have a disco, people will vote. They vote
no, Waraji.
And Waraji. In fact,
you saw it.
NRM primaries.
Yes.
So again,
they gave them Waraji of 2000 and they...
Are you teaching dull students or you are the dull teachers? Proceed.
No, man. So, yes, I want to tell you about the context. I don't know whether the students are necessarily dull or the teachers have a fault.
Or both are dull.
I want to think about the context. Why the context? Because the context in which an election is held matters. Ugandans are saying, all the 5 years, I cannot access my MP. I cannot therefore access money from this MP. But here he is. He has come looking for my vote this time round. And it's the only time I have to get money from him. It is a wrong attitude, but the context is such that it has encouraged it. The NRM primaries did not help. They've just shown that bribery is okay. And yet the law is against bribery. And you know that the penal code even criminalizes it. There is a crime for the one that asks for the bribe and the one that receives the bribe, which therefore means that if it were a government or the context had been that everyone who carries out bribery has been brought to book that courts have tried them and the elections have been overturned. If we had at least 4 or 5 elections overturned, we do have a precedent of Joyce Bagala and the Minister of Lands. Nabakoa.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have that precedent. The election was overturned over questions of voter bribery. But to prove voter bribery in court is also not a simple job. It's a very enormous...
Getting witnesses themselves.
Yes, and the evidence itself. Because you just saw what the NRM tribunal did. The NRM tribunal asked the candidates themselves to produce evidence of voter bribery, even where they produced videos. Admissibility of videos has a standard that has been set by court. And it is a difficult standard. So if the context was a bit different, I'll give you the example of what I mean by context. In Kenya, their elections are also money-riddled. Their elections have a lot of trade. So we'll meet back door, me and you, and we transact. And we agree that me, Norman, you allow me to go here. I will give you this, I will give you a cow, I will give you this, and I will pay for it. But the Kenyan voter knows what he wants. And the Kenyan voter has not been intimidated by the military. The Kenyan voter has not been abducted and necessarily got lost. At least in the past, it wasn't like that. It's probably starting right now with Ruto. He's picked very good lessons from Uganda. And you can see that he's really changing his terrain very fast. But before now, the police and the military, as 2 key institutions that promote electoral democracy, were working for the ordinary Kenyan citizen. And so the ordinary Kenyan citizen knew, even if you brought what amount of money, my vote still counted because I had the support of the military and I have the support of the police. But in this instance, in Uganda's context, it's a bit different. Whether you want to stick by your vote and the military wants to change the votes, they will change. Ask your friend in Remiyaga what is happening to him right now. If they want to change the vote, they will. And there is nothing you can do.
You mentioned money, Charity.
Yes.
Recently, the president has been moving around. It's on record. This is not blackmail, but he's been having envelopes. And what stood out for me was when he was in Kasokoso and he was like, do we still have 30 million there? And it's on record, and with due respect. What do you make of that? Some people, some scholars, have considered it as a pre-voter bribery. Not much as what, because we're already in the electoral process. What do you make of that as an analyst of electoral democracy?
Now, I don't know if, Norman, you have read what Andrew Mwenda has recently written. Andrew Mwenda, this past week, has written a very thatching article. He said, number one, that you and me who are elite, we are very stupid. Why? Because we don't know that democracy equals to money. That if we had a political dispensation that was based on religion, then that one might not necessarily be equal to money. But the forces that determine a democracy is money. And he was vouching for the money that was used in the NRM primaries. He was saying, if you calculate the dollars that were used in the NRM primaries, it is just ordinary money if you compare it to the US and the money they use in their primaries and the national, the final democratic election. Now, of course, those are the views of Andrew Mwenda.
But was he sensitive of the economy of US vis-a-vis Uganda's economy?
He said, you see, I'm not bothered about economic study right now. I'm bothered about democratic ideals. Because what are the democratic ideals you and me are talking about? You as Norman, as a scholar, what are you talking about democratic ideals? Number one, we are saying elections have to be free, elections have to be fair, they have to be credible. What do we mean when we say they have to be fair and credible? When we say they are fair, it means that you who has a lot of money should be able to compete the same way me who doesn't have money is competing. And both of us, our ideas should compete at the marketplace.
Not the money.
Not the money muscle. Not the money skewing the mindset. And now he's saying that even in America, the money skews the mindset. And I am disagreeing. I'm saying that in America, those people already have their money. They are the ones who collect the money for the political parties.
Yeah, sure, for the candidates.
They pick that money from their own pockets. Yes, this money is spent on the election. But even when they spend this money on the election, they account for the election. So yes, the president could have been on that trail, but this is what has been happening from 2001. He always goes ahead and says, look, I am reviewing government programs. And when he's reviewing government programs, the law allows him to do that. Because it's still
donations.
Yes,
the law provides for the donations.
It does. And it makes him still president. So you see, it's different if the law had been different. But because the law provides for it, and the law sets the standard. So even if he asked for 100 million, for him it's very difficult to put him in the docket and say, this is voter bribery, because the law does provide for him. For his donations. But if it was a political candidate, any other political candidate, then it becomes voter bribery, because for them, the law does not protect them. So we go back to your grandfathers who made these laws and decided that that is the standard.
You mentioned, okay, let's now highlight the law. And from your words, you mentioned most of what you have submitted is that the law, apparently have bad laws. Some of them are bad laws. Okay. If you had an opportunity to amend electoral laws in specifics, which laws would you consider amending?
We have what we call the Electoral Financing Bill, which we presented to Parliament. And the Electoral Financing Bill attempted to look at the Constitution entirely and identify areas where we could tighten the noose on the question of voter bribery, vote buying, and vote rigging. And that bill has not seen the light of day. It's still in Parliament.
Who do we blame for that bill?
It is Parliament of Uganda that you blame for that bill, because they have failed to look at it. They have failed to review it the same way they've refused the electoral reforms that we talked about from 2001.
Now they are overtaken by events.
They have been overtaken by events. So it is still the Parliament and government, because Parliament and government are not considering electoral reforms to be very important. So what? So what if we don't carry out the reforms? But here is the so what, Norman. In terms of democracy, democracies only grow with lessons that are learned and improvements that are made from every electoral cycle. So if we made no improvement from the 2021 electoral cycle, and we are now in the 2026 electoral cycle, and everything that we saw bad happening in the 2021 electoral cycle has remained the same or worsened with the 2026 electoral cycle, it means that your electoral democracy has deteriorated. And this has been certified by data from Freedom House. Freedom House Index report shows a decline in democracy in Uganda, but it has also been certified by the Universal Peer Review Mechanism, the UPR. The UPR report has been showing Uganda, whenever we come from an election, Uganda goes and reports in the UN. They report about different indicators to do with human rights, to do with electoral democracy, to do with voter education, what has happened on the democratic arbitrary arrests. They report about those things. Now, the reports, as we have seen them with every election that has happened, have shown a decline in our democratic dispensation, but they've also shown a decline in the management of elections.
Earlier alone you mentioned that the yardstick of age limit,
yes,
its removal brought, to some people's view, even unnecessary candidates. Wouldn't that make you look like anti-young people? Because for me, if one can be 18 and wants to contest for president, why would Charity be annoyed of someone who's, some young person picking nomination reforms?
I don't know whether it makes me anti-young people. Yes, we have a young population, and I want to acknowledge we have a young population. But Norman, we want to think about Article 99 and Article 98 in its sanctity, or in a holistic manner, how those two articles are perceived. That the person of the president will have a certain character. And the presidency, now the office will have a certain way it is run, managed, and the way systems are dispensed. Remember that the presidency has to work with the judiciary and has to work with the legislature. Not necessarily to overturn their views, because you see, Uganda's democracy tried to have what we call, or the constitution tried to have separation of powers, but they failed. What we have is checks and balances.
Not the doctrine of separation of powers.
No, we don't. That doctrine failed. If you go and pick the legal scholars and weigh their view clearly, what was envisaged for separation of powers, because if the true separation of powers was there, then the president would never influence anything that happens in parliament.
Oh, it's you who don't see that there are separation of powers.
No. From everything that we have in Uganda and from the way our law books exist right now, what we have from the three arms of government is simply checking each other. You just do a bit of checks and balances, and some check others more than the others check them. So ideally, because the system on which we run is like that, then the candidate who comes to be a president should be quiescent of all these things, should be able to understand that, okay, this is how the economics works, this is how poverty works. Even if you're going to put for us a political story, like our friends know how to put for us political stories, you should be able to take that office when you know this is when I will play politics, and this is when I will be dealing with the real issue. But if so, you come and you're 30 years, you're 24 years, you have no experience, you have no knowledge, because you see, even in civil service, when it is technical people who are not necessarily just politicians, we do ask for experience. Now, for politicians, we might not need experience, and that is why it is S6 for member of parliament. We might not need experience, even for presidency, but what we need is for you to have a mindset that is open enough to understand world politics, to understand local politics, and to understand regional politics, and to be able to position your country in such a way that it will benefit from the region, from international and local dynamics.
That literally takes us back to the question of law. What specific laws, as a lawyer, would you have in place to ensure that this is a sieving process for a presidential candidate or even any other candidate?
You see, I think that the law as it was before now,
35 and above?
When we had the age, yes. Because you see, Norman, when you're 35 years old, you don't think like a 22-year-old.
Definitely.
Even when you're 35 years old, you don't think like an 18-year-old. But now you're saying, as long as for me I'm on the voter register, which means I'm 18 years old.
And one day can contest for president.
I can. I'm 18 years old. I feel I want to be president. I actually can contest and let these technocrats do my work for me. It wouldn't be bad if I can conceive the things that I have just told you that you be able to conceive. But our education system, I would start by changing the law on the education system. That our education system will bring 18-year-olds who are thinking different. They are more innovative. They understand global politics. They understand regional politics. They understand economics. So I would change the law to be able to bring for me 18-year-olds, since now I've taken away age limit and I'm trying to be inclusive. Democratic processes are supposed to be inclusive. So if I'm trying to be inclusive and allowing 18-year-olds, then the kind of training they're getting should be able to land them at the kind of experience a 35-year-old would have in governance. That is one. You see the ones in America, they have a lot of exposure. They're always on debates. They're always having internet. They're always having information at their hands. But here in Uganda, we still have an issue even of internet coverage. How many Ugandans can obtain internet?
Even where it is,
and it's expensive.
Or even expensive.
Very expensive. Because you see, if you put on data of 5,000, how long can you use it? And that is you who has 5,000 to save every day. How about the person who ordinarily can't have that 5,000?
Who depends on 5 for survival.
Yeah, so the other law that I would change would be to do with economics and make sure that the country is in a good place of economy, earnings for ordinary people, for them to be empowered enough to know who they want to lead them. Thirdly, I would still change the law on bribery. That bribery financing bill, which I have told you about, the legal aid service bill that is in Parliament, I would make sure it is passed. Why? Because the legal aid service bill does provide legal aid for all people that have been unfairly treated on the political journey, like political prisoners, people who have been arbitrarily arrested, people who need legal support but don't have the money or the financial muscle. The legal aid support bill would help them. So once I ensure that there is fairness, equity, justice on the front of the law, but also on the front of the practitioners, because remember, sometimes the law exists, but the way it is interpreted in court is totally different. And you get injustice in court. So if I notice that now the institutions of government are working perfectly well, and the law exists and is used as it is, you know, Norman, that even in the present state of our constitution, if we followed it to the letter, we would not be...
We would be ahead.
Yes.
Okay, we have had, that's Charity Ahimbisibwe. She's a loud speaker when it comes to matters of electoral democracy. But then I think as we get closer to the conclusion of this interview,
yes,
I want to refer you to the, so far the works done by the EC and assess on whether, about their preparedness towards managing now the bigger task. We have had some, I think most of the leadership positions, people have not been nominated. So there is some other bigger tasks. How would you rate their performance so far?
So one, the EC has been unfair to many Ugandans in terms of providing information. When we talk of electoral positions, and what I was looking for, Norman was here, I wanted to share with you data from 2021. I always do this every once in a while for a reason. So you will understand why I was telling you that we need data. Electoral Commission put out adverts for voter education. Yeah. People applied for accreditation, civil society organizations applied for accreditation for voter education. Half of the civil society organizations that I know were not accredited. Voter education has not been well done in this electoral cycle. That is a fault for Electoral Commission. Because the mandate in Article 64G says the Electoral Commission will conduct voter education for the citizens ahead of every election. And if they need support, they can get civil society organizations to support them on that mandate. But it is squarely the mandate of
Electoral Commission.
That's one.
Funded, definitely.
And it is funded by the government of Uganda. And they have the funds. Because if they didn't have the funds, they should have come out and said, we do not have
enough funds.
But they have the funds. Because government said, we have released money for voter education. We have released money for the electoral roadmap as was provided by the Electoral Commission. Now the second thing, the Electoral Commission has been changing that roadmap like a skirt. Every morning there is a change in the roadmap. We were supposed to elect special interest groups. They say, no, the date has changed. The workers' interest group, the date has changed. There's been a lot of changing of the roadmap. Now, you see, a roadmap is like a contract between the Electoral Commission and the citizens and other stakeholders. Stakeholders such as election observers, stakeholders such as civil society organizations, who look at the milestones on the roadmap and follow to see if the Electoral Commission has achieved those milestones. That's the reason for putting the milestones on the roadmap. It's the reason for putting out the roadmap to say, this is what we're going to do by this date. Now, Norman, if you've been following the news, you will notice that there are people who have said they've gone to the National Voters Register and discovered their names were not there, and yet they participated in the display and the update process. So what happened to those voters? Has the Electoral Commission come out to explain anything? No, they have been quiet. And so you're asking me, how has the Electoral Commission performed? That is how they have performed. That people have been going for nominations as councillors, and they put people on their register, they put people as the people backing them. They've signed off for them their documents. They submit the documents to the Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission scrutinizes them and says, this one is not a voter. This one is not a voter. This one is not a voter. Now, once that happens, it means there was an information gap, a gap during the update process. And civil societies did not report anything about that process of update, which we did in 2016, which we did in 2001, we did it in 2006. Why we were reporting about the voter update process was to help the people know, and people were being mobilized. People used to walk around Bizindalo in the villages.
There's megaphones.
And call people to say there's an update process happening. If you don't go, it means you're not going to be on the register. And once you're not there, there are many activities you cannot participate in. So now the Electoral Commission needs to come out and tell voters who is on, who is not on, by displaying that register on the website. It is a requirement. It's a legal requirement. It's also a legal requirement that the Electoral Commission puts the data of whoever was picking nomination forms. That data is supposed to be up on their website. Why? It is part of the processes of making the process transparent. But when they sit on data and people cannot access the information, then the process is not transparent. And when the process is not transparent, the process is not credible. When the process is not credible, then it cannot be trusted. You get it, Norman? The things move together.
One sequence connects onto the other.
Yes.
But then, Charity, you mentioned that the civil society hasn't done the civic education.
No.
This
voter, because they were not accredited.
Is that the excuse for which all of you haven't, most of you haven't done the voter education?
Yes, that is a major, major excuse, because the law requires that for you to carry out voter education or even to observe elections, you must obtain accreditation from
the EC.
Yes.
So on behalf of the civil society, for instance, did you ever make any efforts to talk to the EC itself?
Yes, we have.
In regard to this, what you consider, I'm even trying to look for the word, like insufficient accreditation, half of your organizations.
Yes.
So do you reach out to EC, and what was their response?
We have had conversations with the EC, but they promised they were going to call a bigger meeting, which hasn't happened, because I think also civil society has been reluctant to squeeze the EC or to follow through the EC. I don't know why. I also want to blame the civil society a bit. Okay, I know why. The reason is because in 2021, civil society organizations, even those that had been accredited, were persecuted by the EC. Some people were arrested. You know that I was also arrested in one day. So different actors were arrested.
Oh, you were poking your nose in what is beyond your mandate. Because sometimes
no, we were not poking our nostrils beyond our mandate. We were poking our nostrils in only the data that was available.
Sometimes you, civil society, want to be like sniffer dogs. You want to sniff around
for everything.
And maybe that could cause trouble. So perhaps you might have poked your nose into what was beyond your mandate. And
you see, number one, we were being accused of being operatives for the Western economies.
Agents of the West.
Yes, and we are still agents of the West up to now. I wonder, I wish I could be an agent of the West, because I would be having dollars, no man. Right now, I would just be unleashing for you some of the dollars. But I want to run over this data.
Sure. In our next 4 minutes, we close.
Number one, if you look at the 2021 election, and I just want to show you the percentages in terms of representation between men and women. and why the EC should have prioritized voter education and mindset change for the community concerning the question of gender. For me, as a board chairperson of the Uganda Media Women's Association, we shall be looking at the question of gender, and that is why I'm trying to show you this data. So from 2021, in Acholi region, 10 people were elected as female members of parliament. 18 were men. That made it 28 from that region. In Bukedi, we had 8 females, 21 males. In Bunyoro, we had 12 females and 16 men. In Busoga, we had 12 females and 32 men. In West Ankole, we had 9 females and 21 males. Now, this data helps you to see, it paints the picture better.
A national picture of how many female leaders are coming on board vis-a-vis men.
Now, this I have only picked to do with gender. But we look at different aspects. Civil society really looks at different aspects. We look at the political context. We look at the arbitrary. I'll tell you, for example, in 2021, the presidential candidates had 60 times in which they could campaign. 60 times in which they could campaign at different locations to voters. And 55 times of those 60 times, this Patrick Amuriat Oboy was arrested by the police. And tear gassed. So a presidential candidate could not fulfill
the 60 times
the
of
60
appearance
times
before the voters.
So that then projects, it tells you that this was a violent election because it wasn't allowing candidates, some of the candidates, to participate freely. And I have data to do with Tumukunde. I have data to do with all the candidates that stood in 2021.
But also, Charity, in your heart of hearts, do you think that even if they had allowed such candidates to, to reach elsewhere that they wanted, that they would make a very big, significant difference, for crying out loud? Because there are some candidates that had like a 10,000 votes. Like even if they had allowed them, even if they had moved all over, do you think that would, or it's just for purposes of having, you people, okay, your reports, like, at least they reached there?
Oh no, man. What did I tell you? That an election has to be what?
Free, fair, did you mention transparent? Credible.
So that's what very good student. That is Article 61. So, tell me. So that kills the credibility of the entire process. It kills the fairness of the process. Let's use our 3 also means to close with these questions. First of all, I know you are a Christian. So with our cameras there, you should tell the public those Christo successes by EC. Because they should be there, most likely. They are. By and large, they should be. What has EC done that in your view, like you will credit them? Okay. The success number 1 is that people have been nominated. Because it would have been unfortunate if they asked for nominations and people were not nominated. So that is a big success. Big credit. Secondly, they have a voters register. They have only not displayed it to, or even updated it to the letter? Uploaded it onto the website and given it to Ugandans as a whole. But they have the register. You see, a clean election begins with a voters register. So if they have a register, then that is also another credit. It's a credit. They displayed it, they updated it, they went to the community. That is a credit to them. Another credit, because you said you're a Christian. I credit them all. To tell the truth as a Christian. Because you see, there is nothing that I said on the show which was a lie. Because another credit for the Electoral Commission is that even when they have changed the roadmap as many times as I have told you that they have changed, they've been able to communicate that change. There is a possibility of changing and not communicating that change. Yeah, sure. But they changed and communicated the public. The change. The only thing they did not do is to consult the stakeholders ahead of the changes. So they would change as them. But the body does not, the law does not mandate them to change as themselves alone. the law envisages elections as a collective process. So if you're going to change, it's like a man and a wife in the home. You, the man, you're just taking decisions alone. Your woman, you don't tell her anything. She just wakes up tomorrow and says, we are going to America. Okay, now tomorrow we are going to Bukoma and Simbi. Tomorrow. I mean, you
so
not...
this is becoming a dictatorial man.
Exactly. He's
out of 10, rate them. I'll give you our last question and then we...
yeah, I think out of 10, if I had to rate them, and really I am being... very generous to rate them like this. I'll rate them at 6 out of 10. It means that there is a 4.
Above average.
Yes.
At least now.
I've said I'm being very generous. And I'm sure they would be shocked that I've rated them at 6 out of 10. But yes, I would rate them at 6 out of 10.
Make 2 calls. 3 calls. But our time. I was about to ask you, but anyway, maybe I'll ask my colleagues to give me a minute to ask you this. You want to fault EC for the, in quotes, non-performance of female candidates, for instance, in the previous elections,
yes.
rather nominations and the rest. But then we're in a country that has a vice president as a woman, a prime minister as a woman, a speaker as a woman, and so many other ministries. Don't you think that blame would now shift to people we thought would be mentoring these other women to also take on the mantle?
You see, the question of gender is a big issue, Norman. And it's an issue that has been muddled in so many things. One, we have not attained equality, neither have we attained equity. When we talk of equity, it's a question of justice. And we're going to have this conversation on another day.
Yeah, sure,
because I want to have an entire discussion and let you understand why these gender issues are very important. Second, when we talk about the number increasing, this number is only increasing in as far as the affirmative action is concerned. But in this 2026 election, I want to excite you that LC5s, I have seen 8 candidates who are female standing to be LC5 chairperson. Because in the previous cycle of 2021, we had 3 women who went through. So those 3 have inspired 8 to come on board.
And I think even the 3 were inspired by Salam Musumba, the one
who tried before. So you can see, so once there is that opening, then even the society begins to understand that, or even if we say chairperson,
it can still represent
it can be a man or a woman. But before then, they would be saying, but you're a woman, why are you standing as?
Chair. Okay, we are closing. I'm asking you 3 calls to EC, citizens, and civil society.
Now, the first call to EC is, I don't know, but you should find a way of allowing civil society organizations to observe their election. And you should find that way of giving accreditation to those civil society organizations and support them. Support them because that is the mandate of the law. That is my call to the Electoral Commission. Because except we have data, we cannot authoritatively improve processes, and we therefore curtail our democracy.
Civil society.
Civil society organizations need to work a bit better together. As in, I know we have collective meetings. We have agreed to hold a civil society conference, and we will be brainstorming a number of these things. But I think civil society needs to build scenarios around this election. What we saw in 2021 is already happening now. We have political prisoners, we have arbitrary arrests, we have people who are disappearing, we have no accountability from security forces, and we're going to only see it get worse as the election goes by. So as voices of reason, we need to come out together. By now, we should have released a statement as civil society organization about some of the things that we see going right and those that we see going wrong in the process. But we have not had a collective voice. And my appeal is that going forward, we should have a collective appeal for the citizens. Yeah. Don't beg money from those candidates. You scrutinize people for their values, their principles, and the ideas that they are bringing. Because if you take money, it is only temporary. You will satisfy yourself. There are people who got 1 million from Kololo, and after 1 week on Radio West, They told us they didn't even have 10 shillings. They sat down on radio and told us, when I was in Kololo, I got windfall. I got 1 million. But when I returned home, I spent it on so many things. Now I don't even have 100 shillings. But so it had happened. The ones that had been elected with money. Don't take money. If you do, choose people of value, because we need a governance system that works for us all.
That is Charity Ahimbisibwe, the ED Electoral Laws and Governance Institute. We shall have her here some other time to come so that we can have a lengthy discussion, because this is always a brief one every Friday at 5 p.m. Face the Nation. I sign out. Continue sharing and or sending your comments. Some other time when we have her, it could be a lengthy show even for Uganda viewers to tap in her wisdom. I sign out.